Morning. How was there? Morning. How is everyone?
Chris, hey Chris, we're on mute now.
Oh,
We're on live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Parish Coffee Hour with Father Paul and friends this week. And we're going to be talking a lot about Oktoberfest as we get going here. So just wanted to turn it right over to Father Paul and let him get us started.
Good morning, everyone. Glad you're with us today as we do have a chance to talk about Oktoberfest. It's October 22nd today, and on this day, as the afternoon goes on, barring the unforeseen, our refurbished church bell will be rehung and put back in its place. And again, our schedule is for next week the church tower and the steeple and the cross to be put up. So October is certainly this year an eventful time for all of us. And again, as we're impacted by the pandemic, make adjustments. So it's striking that, as many of you know, in Cincinnati, they have an Oktoberfest that always happens for about a 10-day period. And that's an event that it's the second largest Oktoberfest in the world, second only to that in Munich. But again, they've made the adjustment too. So they were just doing carryouts and takeouts on the taverns and the restaurants in downtown Cincinnati. That would be part and parcel of the throngs of people who would be gathered for that Oktoberfest. We would be having our Oktoberfest. We'd had it in early September, and we've made adjustments. So with me today are members of the team, present and past, and future, I believe, as we reflect a bit on Oktoberfest for this year. So as we begin, I'll offer a prayer and introduce our guests, and then we'll be able to enter into the conversation. Lord, we ask you to bless us. We know that you love us and that you are with us, that you give us the grace we need and the gifts we need, the wisdom we need, the courage we need, the love that we need as we go through this time, this challenging time of the pandemic. We ask you to bless us, to help us to make good decisions, to keep ourselves and others and our families safe. We ask you to bless our faith community, that in the midst of all this, we'll all be able to feel your presence. We'll be able to radiate your presence by our actions, by our attitude, by our spirit, and by our words. Be with us as we keep moving forward, as we give thanks for the response that's happened for the virtual Oktoberfest, and as we celebrate what it's meant for us as a parish and its enduring qualities that we're sure we're going to be able to keep going. And so we pray to you then through Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, with us today are a variety of folks. Katie Shepard is with us. Susan West is with us, who's been part of the Oktoberfest for many, many years. And so has Mike Soretta. Christian Klickner is with us. Suzanne Bunch is with us. And I'm thinking Jody or Kent Wedding will be with us too. I'm not, and with these things, we kind of develop as we go along. So we'll enter right into it. We're going to be reflecting on Oktoberfest there, then, and now. And so I think the first question, and I think it's one of those things of, I'll direct some questions to individuals, but I'll offer a lot of questions just sort of out there, and then give, like, whoever wants to jump in, give you a chance to respond, and just however that works out, we'll do that. And Mike, want to make sure that everybody who's part of the team today, part of our guests, will be able to offer some thoughts and some insights and some feelings. So right from the get-go, it's probably good to map out what our approach to Oktoberfest is going to be this year, and also the October Dash.
I can start us off. Well, it's completely virtual to the extent that folks could still get together and run the dash if they want to do that. But it took us a while to get the word out that it was virtual, because people kept asking, apparently, like even up until maybe some people are still getting the word, well, when is Oktoberfest? Because we basically, wanted to just kind of share the spirit and put it out there like we have in years past with signage and on social media and over our emails. And so I think people kept waiting for, well, when is the date? When is the date? The big joke is everyone's asked, why isn't Oktoberfest in October? Well, we were able to pull that off this year. So the actual date, if people want a hard date, is going to be October 30th. So next week is when everything will kind of culminate, is when, if you are going to do the dash, you have to have it done by that day. And that's when the raffle ticket will be pulled as well. So it's our culmination evening, and it will be live streamed.
Understand that all the tickets have been sold for the car raffle already, and that the car raffle is it's offering more tickets than we usually do in order to kind of to make up what we would have generated by the Oktoberfest. Is that correct?
Yes, this year we did increase the amount of tickets by nearly 75%, and they sold out much quicker than we ever have in the past. I think that the Cummins family and Cummins Chevrolet is really a big reason why we've had such success. They have been a big support sponsor for us in this effort, and really wanted to make sure that portions that we could have for Oktoberfest really went off well. And so this year, their contribution was really a really generous and nice vehicle. And this year is a 2021 Chevy Tahoe, and that alone is really remarkable, and that has really helped, and probably will catapult us, and will continue along those lines. Hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future.
Yeah. All right. Christian, what's your feelings? You and your wife are part of the leadership team this time around, and what did it feel like when you realized, well, we got to go virtual?
Knowing that everyone is in the same boat, you just push forward. There's so many of the festivals pretty much have been canceled throughout. You know, Oktoberfest is for Christ the King has been such a community supported function, and with Christ the King being the staple in the community, it was something that we just looked at that said it needs to go off. And how is that going to happen? And so with all of the committee members, both current as well as interaction with some of them in the past, saying, you know, what would Oktoberfest look like? What are the possibilities that are out there? We really wanted to have something that really continued to look and function at least to some capacity of what Oktoberfest is. Because while a lot of us early on were really sitting at home, we wanted to make sure that there was something that you could look forward to.
Yeah.
And so we just push forward.
Yeah, that's sort of like that can-do attitude that we need to have in these days, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, we're doing kind of a virtual October Dash. Could you speak to that, or can one of you say a few things about the October Dash, how that's going to work out?
Sure. So that I guess in the history of Oktoberfest, the Dash is an event that's, I guess, still fairly new and popular. Typically, right, we're dashing around the Chevy Chase neighborhood area. And right now we have about 114 participants signed up, which is more than we had last year. And so this year, like all races, they're virtual. So you'll still get, you know, if you had signed up, you'd still get the t-shirt, and but you can pick your day and time as to when you want to do it. And so there's still a week left. So, and we really want to encourage families to get out there and do it together. One of the great features about this year's October Dash was that they added a half marathon option. And that's something that, you know, we've not had before. It's you know, typically been a 5K. And yeah, so the half marathon option is really, really fun. And I can tell you that my husband and I did that last weekend, and I'm still recovering from it. We did it together, and I'm still kind of hobbling around, but it was great.
Yeah. Katie, can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
Did we save the cost of having the event in person? Because I know they track and they have the tent and the music and the people that are there, that kind of thing. So did we save on the cost of putting it on because we didn't have to pay for that?
Are you talking about the Dash in particular or the entire event?
Right. No, the Dash in particular.
The Dash. Yeah, I think a lot of the expenses from the Dash came from having to have the streets closed, from what I understand. You know, Jennifer Bennett, she's spearheaded this event from the start, and so she's kind of an expert at it now, and she's been amazing. And so, yeah, it was hiring the police officers to close the streets was a huge expense.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Let's do a little bit of round robin real quickly to help our viewers. If you could introduce yourself and how many years you've been involved with Oktoberfest, that might be a great thing to do at this time. And Tom, since you're on, why don't you go first?
Well, thank you, Father Paul. I think for 20 years we've been attending Suzanne and I, gosh, when we lived on Dudley Road. But in terms of being a volunteer, it's just been the last, 4 or 5 years. Suzanne would have to help me out on that. But we were the co-chairs of the kids' games last year.
Okay, so Tom and Suzanne Bunch. Okay. Christian?
Yeah, so I am still relatively new to Lexington, Kentucky. However, my family has been connected with Christ the King for decades. This is now our 4th year volunteering, or now being on the committee itself with that. And we have 3 young boys under the age of 9 who grow to Christ the King. And we were looking for something that really would get us engaged more with the church, with the school, with the community. And looking at Oktoberfest is something that we just love to go to and be a part of. We looked at saying, where can we make a bigger contribution, and looked at we could be a part of for several years to come. So I hope to be a part of this for a little bit longer.
All right. Well, it's a challenging start, but rising to the occasion.
Right.
Susan West.
Yes. Well, I started back when we first had Oktoberfest on the fields. So I know that there are stories where they did them in the basement of the church for several years, and just started being a volunteer for one shift in kids games and doing the Coke toss, which was quite challenging. And did the balloon toss too, which was challenging. So, but after the first year, I started coming in and just being a floater. So just worked the entire time and just went wherever anyone needed us to, and sort of worked all the grounds, and then took up site support is what we became. We were called trash for the most part, but did that for about 5 years until Mike fortunately stepped up, helped out, took over for me for that.
You still owe me for that, Susan.
Yeah. We told him it was an easy job. So it's not the worst. There's food, and Attic Treasures was also a challenge at that time, but was a head chair from 2001 through 2003. And so again, 2001 was quite a challenging year. And then after that, could not retire, and created the beer garden. And so that has been a very successful area where people can come and sip beer and enjoy the festival.
Well, again, for our listeners, Susan, I'd introduce you as not only as you, but as a mom, as a mother of James from our staff, and Kelly Taylor from our school administration. So thanks for sharing your gifts with those two wonderful young folks who are such a great part of our parish community day by day.
And then three grandchildren there, and one coming in a few weeks.
Yeah. All right. And Mike Soretta.
Yeah. Thanks, Father Paul. And yes, Susan led into some of my story. 25 years, of course, both of my children who are now 29 and 26 have gone through the school, and my wife Kim still works there doing the 2-year-olds now. She's been there the whole 25 years as well. And we started at Oktoberfest. It was literally our very first weekend here. And just like Susan, went down there and started volunteering, doing whatever was needed to be done, pouring beer, picking up stuff, helping out, whatever. And then, yes, in 2001, when Susan took over the main operation, she sold myself and Keith Mormon on this idea of taking over site support. And we thought, man, that sounds really, really fancy. That's a big time job. She had just changed the name.
A golf cart around the place too,
well,
right?
She had just changed the name from trash to site support, I think, to recruit us into this, right? Is how this happened. So I'm forever grateful, because we did that for 10 years. And Father Paul, that was our main contribution. We brought in the gators. We used to do it all on foot and just pick up trash. You had remember, Susan, the duct tape around the wrist, because you'd have to duct tape the bags and carry them back and dump them in the dumpster. And oh man, and then somebody had the idea, the gator, Keith did, and that helped a lot. But very hard work, and I've jumped up and down on my share of dumpsters to pack the trash in to make room for more. And Attic Treasures, which is where I got that antique radio back there, which I love. That was a mixed blessing, because when the teardown came for that, right, that was all hands on deck. You had to get that thing taken care of, and which had happened about halfway through Saturday. But I did it in 10 years, for 10 years, and 9/11 was the first year, and it was quite an event. But I loved that job, and then we moved on to, I've been the chair for casino beer, which is it's still hard work, but it's a lot less moving around, and I've been doing it. I'll volunteer and share something at Oktoberfest as long as I can. It's my favorite event of the year.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to step in as impromptu host until Father Paul gets back. But so I'll go next. I work here at the parish, and we've been in Lexington for about 6 years now. And Oktoberfest, we kept hearing about it. We moved into the neighborhood. We kept hearing about it before I worked here, and I just could not believe when you actually go to Oktoberfest that weekend, that it's the same place that you just normally go to church to. I mean, it is so transformed. It is amazing. And it's amazing that it's all run, by volunteers. So that kind of blows me away every single year. This year, Kim Thompson really has been that like staff liaison, kind of linking everything together. And she's moved on to a job with another fundraising arm within kind of the diocese. And so I've had to kind of drink from the fire hose and learn very quickly to get up to speed on all things kind of behind the scenes of Oktoberfest. And this year, in some ways, it's kind of been a little bit of a blessing that it's been virtual, because it's just, I guess, not as much of a crazy time leading up to the event. So anyway, it's been great. It's been amazing to see the amount of support and the history behind Oktoberfest. So I think Suzanne, you're next. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, here I am. We got involved at the Oktoberfest early on after we moved to Dudley Road, and I've chaired the kids crafts booth, and then we were vice chairs and head chairs. But this event, is very special to Tom and I. We actually met at Oktoberfest, and the rest is history there. But I can remember those early events of Oktoberfest, and I remember the attic treasures, and just how it's evolved. I mean, it is so much more than it was 20 years ago. And it's such a huge undertaking, and a labor of love to give back. It's just a wonderful event, and your chances to meet new people and forge friendships or marriage, it's a good it's a good thing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents there.
Can either of you speak to maybe like the earlier years and how many volunteers it took to put it on, and then how that's evolved and changed over the years?
Well, Susan, you might be a better person for that, for the earlier years and how many volunteers that it takes.
Thanks, being the historian here. Well, it's always taken more volunteers than we have had, for sure. So I don't think we've ever turned away volunteers, and that certainly wasn't the rule, that if you can find somebody to pitch in, put them someplace else. And so we probably, during my time, we probably needed 500-600 volunteers at least for that, because some of those activities that are no longer there, like adult crafts and attic treasures, they needed a lot of volunteers for that. So we've certainly still need volunteers, but some of the more labor intensive activities have gone away.
The thing, Susan, on the volunteers, that's always, I don't want to say amazed me, because you would almost expect it. We always have that crunch, to get people signed up for shifts, and we speak to it at Mass and all of that. And there's always a little bit of that nervous tension, but every year people, just like I got involved and Susan got involved, we never don't have enough. People show up, they'll go to the information table, say, I'm here to volunteer. And that always kind of amazes me. And it's always a nice thing. And I meet a lot of new people that way. They say, hey, I offered to help out, and they said you needed help here. And yeah, sure. What's your name? And you get to know people. So it always works out. Sometimes it's a little stressful, but it always seems to work out. And it's really the goodness of the community and the people attending. You know, they often just say, "Hey, can I help out with anything?" So it's really good.
Yes, and it is the best way to get to know people in the parish, I
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's how I met my best friends for that. Mike and I have been a good friends since then, since going through Oktoberfest. So if you're new to the parish, it's a great way to meet people for that. It's also a great way to get different people involved with Oktoberfest from the parish. So it's a way for seniors to get involved because there's always activities that they can help with, and
Yep.
for the youth to be involved, and just lots of different people for that. So it does take a parish to put it on.
Well, it's,
I like the screenshots here.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a glitch with my computer at the rectory, but I walked over to the office and I think I'm okay. So, Katie, thanks for guiding things along in my absence, and want to keep going, and I'll join in midstream.
Sure. We were just talking about how the number of volunteers, how many it took to run it in the earlier years, and then the last few years, which is what I'm most familiar with. I mean, it seems like we're up to like 800 to 1,000 volunteers. Is that right, Suzanne and Tom and Christian? I think that's typically like the sign up genius that we send out for people to sign up in advance seems to be like 800 plus volunteers.
I'll be honest, I really didn't realize it was that many. I knew there were a couple hundred, but I didn't realize that we're approaching 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
That really speaks to the volume of how many people now take time away from their daily lives to come and join such a great festival, as well as how much it's grown.
I think there's kind of like a miracle that happens too. A week or two before the Oktoberfest, it's usually X amount that's minus what we project we need. And then with the last minute plea, there's students that come from Lexington Cathedral, but also from some of the sororities, I think, at UK and groups like that. And Susan, can you speak to that, of how that phenomenon tends to work? Because you've been UK some, I know.
Yes, I work at UK and work with the fraternities and sororities. So we usually give out a call for them to help because they're always looking for opportunities to do that. And of course, they love the face painting in the kids area, but they also help with setup and occasionally with cleanup too. So it is not only the parish, but when we have lots of community people that come in, so there'll be also people from other parishes in Lexington that have volunteered and help out. Knights of Columbus will bring their friends, and relatives also come. So
Yeah.
I have a crew that comes that are related to me or past friends that have moved out of town that still come in.
I think, Father Paul, I know we used to use the Boy Scouts all the time when I had site support, and I've kind of lost track of that, but I'd be willing to guess that they're still very involved in coming in and helping out, our local troops.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sure they would be. Yep. Would you all be able to speak to the way things have changed in terms of leadership over the years? I think for a while it was like 3 couples followed by 3 couples, who would be teaming up, and it's still something like that. But can you speak to how that's changed and evolved? Can you describe that?
Well, I think
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. I was going to say that I understand that in the past, you had a 3-year cycle. So your first year, and I think it was 3 sets of couples even then. So you had a couple who was over the kids area, a couple who was over entertainment, and a couple who was over food and beverages. And then under them, there would be 2 other couples. So you had 9 couples total. So it was a 3-year cycle where your first year in, you kind of learned the ropes of your area. The second year in, you had a larger role in helping the head chairs into coordinating, whether it was booking things and getting contracts and volunteers. And then by your final year, you kind of supervised your entire area and were very, very hands-on. So within that 3-year cycle, you kind of learn everything. And then I think that it changed where some felt that 3 years was too much. And so it became a 2-year cycle. So your head chairs would gather all the contracts, make sure you had all the volunteers, come up with, if you wanted to change kids games or whatever it was, or add a wine tent, or, they did that. And you just kind of had your vice chairs where you kind of, trained them and told them everything about it. And then they, you kind of work as a group that whole time. And that was it. But apparently, but we kind of lose something when you miss that 3rd year, because I think by year 2, you kind of know what's going on.
Mhm.
You really understand, you understand what is going on. And then, so that what they have tried to do is change it to where, when you've reached that 3rd year, you were more on as a consultant, and you're still on the grounds during the event and helping out, and you kind of float where you're needed. And if there, or anything that comes up where you are, where, your advice is needed, you kind of do that. But I think that's kind of the structure that we've gone with at this point.
And I think it's been really good. I think it's worked out, except for this 2020 coronavirus time.
You're muted, Father Paul.
One of the things I've noticed over the years is that the week leading into Oktoberfest is a week that some folks just take off work because they're down here so much to do the last minute preparations. Can you, as you look at your memories, with the construction and getting everything in place, can you speak to how all that works out? And Susan, looks like you're ready to jump in on that one.
Oh, I was just remembering back in 2001, the year of 9/11. So I was certainly there on site that week, working, and so was there when the towers were struck, and so went in and watched that in the school, and so it was very, very memorable experience of being there on site, being in the school. I was also chair of the school committee. At that time, we didn't have a school board, but the committee. And so talking through what do we do with the children during that time period, and what do we do with Oktoberfest. And so to continue to be there. And so just that doesn't answer your question, but the lead into what we did that year, thinking about what do we do? People are frightened to be together, but yet people wanted to be together. And so we decided to go forward and to have Oktoberfest because we felt like people needed to be together. And of course, 9/11 happened on a Tuesday. Oktoberfest started on a Friday. We decided we would have a community-wide prayer service and invited the mayor to come to be part of that. And we had 6,000 people come. There were no high school football games that weekend. So that attracted a lot more people to be there. But I think people were really glad that they had an opportunity to be together and to pray together and to pray for our safety for that. And so it's a year that I remember quite well, and felt like, and a big decision, a real big decision. Do we go forward or not? And so we prayed as a committee chair group on what to do, and felt called to provide this service to Lexington.
Yeah.
So there were 6,000 people on the grounds.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Mike was in charge of cleanup, and it was just it It was a
But
lot.
and it was a joy to clean it up because Susan nailed it. I could just dovetail off of it. I mean, people wanted to see each other. You know, many people outside of your immediate family. It was the first time since the tower's gone down that they saw their their friend, their neighbor, their associate. And it was clearly one of the more moving moments of my life, right, Susan? The service. We stopped the event for a period of time. I can't recall, maybe a half hour, and there was this mass of humanity all praying and candles, and it was a moment. It was 20 years ago, thereabouts, and I remember it like it was last night. So it was very, very memorable, no doubt.
Yes, but it does take a week to get things set up. It takes a whole week to set up the site. You have to be there because you have the fire department comes and inspects. You have the vendors that come in and set up. You have the porta potties come set up, and then you have to drag them across the field to get them in the right spot. And there's many things that go on to get ready for Oktoberfest. So it does take a whole week off of work to get ready.
Yeah, it's really a commitment. I remember too, 2001, it wasn't a year I was there. I think probably Greg Schuler was at that, grateful for his leadership and helping out to be what the community needed at the time, to be a chance to come together.
Father Paul, I'm going to jump in here. One of the other very, very moving, vivid memories I have, and the only event I can actually put a year to is 9/11 and the year that Kentucky beat Florida, and we were watching it. The other years all run together. But you out in front of the steps of Heman Hall on the keg blessing, I'm guessing, I can't remember how many years ago it was, in the pouring rain, and just watching you. The rest of us are on the steps. We're chickening it out like we're underneath the overhang, and you're out there in front of us. And that was also a really moving moment for us. You were praying for the event to go well, and I think also for this rain to stop any moment soon would be helpful. But you got soaking wet, and it was also a really spiritual, moving moment for me.
Well, yeah, thank you. Just one of those things we do of all the quasi-heroic things. It's probably a lower level, but anyway, glad to do it. Let's look back a little bit, and there was, I guess, when it was really kicking off in the schoolyard, in the parking lot. The entertainment was some local folks, and then there was kind of like a change. Can you speak of what that felt like and how that came about, how you feel about it? Just the change that's taking place with the entertainment.
I mean, I remember when it happened. I don't think that I was actually involved, or Susan involved, in the actual discussion about going to the big stage. It was definitely a shift, and for, I guess, we'll call ourselves old timers now, old timers like us. It was a little awkward, a little different at first. Maybe it took me a year to get used to it. But it's turned into, now I almost couldn't imagine, Oktoberfest without it. But yeah, we've gone from, priests up there doing polka to rock bands thumping out through the evening. But the community loves it, and they get all excited, and I've grown to really like it as well. So how long have we been doing this now, Susan? Has that been about 8 or 10 years? Maybe more. Yeah, I'm losing track of time.
I think so. And certainly the band, whoever the band is, brings in the crowd for that. Something that, as we brought in, I think while I was chair, we had some more creative entertainment chairs that were able to work with the troubadours downtown and had some more contacts. And so as they brought in some bigger names, we were able to evolve into something bigger. And that definitely is what brought the non-parishioners and the non-local people in to help with the food sales and the beverage sales.
Yeah. I think the first year, didn't we try to keep it in the same tent where we used to do all that? And then we realized it was too much for that, and they went to the stage, I think.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I remember when I came in the year 2002, it was the local talent and our local would-be talent. It would have the polka band from, say, Cincinnati, and maybe a couple of fairly local groups, and then there would always be the priest group. And of course, part of the history of the priest group was there'd be some talented priests up there singing, and very often along with him would be Father Murphy, and they would sort of drag him along and get him in there, and yet he was a big hit because he was loved so much, and he was just doing the best he could up there and having a good time.
Yeah.
I know when I came, Susan was the one of the chairs, and my hairline isn't much different now than it was then. Susan hooked me up with we called it an Elvis Presley wig, but anyway,
Is there a picture of that?
Yeah, well, we do
Anyone
have
have
a photo
anything
of
of
that.
that? That'd be great.
I haven't thought about that. Do we have a photo?
We sang some of the best of Elvis's songs and slaughtered them as we went along. And it was a priest group, but again, one of our great guys in the parish says, it's good to move away from the singing Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Bobs and to get more professionals in.
Well, I think we definitely need to bring back the priest entertainment.
Yeah, we should do that. We should dig
And
that Elvis costume out.
Yeah, and let you decide, do you want to be in a dunking booth or do you want to be in the entertainment?
Sure, we got some good backup. But anyway, Kevin Wilson at that time was working with our parish. He was the director of faith formation, or CCD, and he had a prior side job of lining up acts for different vendors or clubs around Lexington. So he had some contacts, and I think he got things kind of in motion to get the larger groups. I don't know if any of you remember Black Diamond.
We still try to get him back. So
he's
that's
an African-American guy, I think from West Virginia. And
yes.
And so he would, I guess he would, play the background music, and then he would sing Neil Diamond songs. And I guess if you're over 40, and maybe even under, but if you're over 40, you just love the Neil Diamond song. So we'd have people of all ages, kind of just standing up and singing along with him, Sweet Caroline and Kentucky Woman and those kind of songs. And, it was great. It was great. Well, tell me, I'm sharing some of my memories. What are some of your best memories from one year or the other?
Well, one we haven't talked about because we tend to focus so much on rain. And again, Susan, you'll have to keep me honest here on what year it was. But we had a drought. Remember the year we had a really horrible drought? And of course, it was still warm in September, and the field had just turned into a dust bowl. And I just remember looking over on the field, and the kids were over there doing all their stuff. It looked like Arizona or something. It was just dust everywhere. I can't remember what year it was, sometime after 9/11, but we had a horrible drought that summer, hadn't had any rain. And it was just a big dust bowl over there. And of course, you're hot and sweaty, and the dust is sticking to your face.
I do remember we had to hose it down.
Yeah.
And to do that. Yeah, I'd forgotten about the dust pile. I was trying to remember the hurricanes. I remember Isabel, the Hurricane Isabel, and I think that was 2003. We had the middle school science classes were tracking it as it was coming in, and to watch for that. And we had several newscasts where we were standing in 3 inches of rain saying, yes, Oktoberfest will go on. And a couple of times we had to move it into Heman Hall.
Yeah.
But usually Father Murphy would prevail. So he's still praying for us every year at Oktoberfest to keep the rain at bay. and has been quite successful most years.
Father Paul, my favorite memory as or non-memory is the year we finally got rid of the 2-liter ring toss. Because Susan can tell you that a bunch of middle schoolers hopped up on 2 liters of Dr. Pepper and Coca-Cola, and they had just bought, used 7-irons from Attic Treasures. Was the worst thing in the world for somebody working site support. I'm like, can you at least give them diet? Because the sugary stuff is so sticky. Yeah. And we finally got rid of that thing. After anybody who ever worked site support pushed really hard, let's get rid of the ring toss, okay?
And the pull tabs.
Well, the pull tabs are still,
the boys especially would win them and shake them up and then want to have a squirting contest, with each other. And you're like, can't stop this. And then you'd get in the middle of it, and they'd throw them in the garbage, and it was just a mess. Trust me, it was a mess.
Well, I will say thank you for eliminating that out of it, especially you mentioned it's the boys who do it. Knowing that I've got 3 boys under the age of 9, I'm sure mine would be right.
They would have been right in the thick of it. Trust me, absolutely.
I'm still relatively new to Oktoberfest, but I think I have two memories. 3 years ago, I think was my first year volunteering. And I think that Saturday, it just downpoured that afternoon. I think we got through maybe the first 2 or 3 hours, but before dark, we had to shut down because it was cat and dogs. But that's my first memory. But what happened last year was my wife and I, our first real connection with it being, part of one of the chair groups now. And while we're running around, our 3 boys were also then at the event for the entire time. And so when the bands came on, as it got darker and people started to really get engaged with the music as the evening started, to watch our 3 boys, as Linz and I sat and really enjoyed the festival, of course, had a beer, and sit there and watch the kids sit there and just dance, really was spectacular. It was one of those family moments that you really reflect on and say, I could live in this moment forever.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned, moving here, and our very first Friday night in Lexington was Oktoberfest, and my kids, they were 3 and 1. I mean, Leah was just turning 1, and we just live on Cooper, and we put him in the wagon and walked down to Oktoberfest, and a very, very similar memory. Just what a great, we're looking around like, wow, this is just the greatest thing. And that's, we got involved.
It's hard to live up, it's kind of set the stage that high that you're expecting, well, every weekend or once a month, we're going to have a great.
Exactly. Like, this is great. What's next weekend?
Yeah.
Well, I think next weekend might've been Keeneland. So maybe we did.
Yeah, there you go.
So we certainly have had, I was just going to say, we've had some Oktoberfest characters throughout the year. Monica Hinkle was one of those, being in charge of the microphone and calling all volunteers, Oktoberfest volunteers. She would do that over and over again, trying to recruit volunteers on the grounds. So a strong memory there. We have Mr. October.
That's my mother-in-law.
Yes, I know. So tell her we gave a call out to her for all those years that she was in charge of the mic, getting people to come help out. Mr. Oktoberfest is, of course, Doug Allen.
Doug Allen, of course.
Who, chaired Attic Treasures for several years, and then was chair, and then was security, and is co-chair of the beer garden now. We have there's a neighborhood guy that comes and helps to set up all week. And so we always give them a shirt and be part of the community. There's a lady that gets dropped off, and she's mainly there to play. She plays bingo all the time, but we sort of keep an eye out on her because she has some health conditions. So there's Oktoberfest is not only a parish thing, but also for the community. Lots of different people come back every year just for Oktoberfest and help out. So we've had
there's so many figures that are there year after year. John Thompson at the top of the list. I mean, John, puts that thing together, it seems, and a real lively crew that I always go over with and mess around with and drink a few beers and kind of poke fun with is the crew over there doing all the cooking. Most of them from the Knights.
Yeah.
Jerry and that crew, they're always a lot of fun. I go over there and just mess with them like, oh gosh, you're burning the food again. What is wrong with you guys? That kind of thing. And it's a yearly tradition. So there's so much of that behind the scenes, maybe that the patrons don't see that we know about, these yearly rituals. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I really missed it this year.
The school cafeteria people make the strudel or make the sauerkraut. And so they're in the basement of the school there in the cafeteria all weekend long and don't even get out. So there's a lot of, and then the finance people are the people I like to hang around with. And so they're locked into the rectory or wherever they have the bank is what we call it. And they're just counting money and trying to turn that money over. They can't ever seem to turn it over enough to give us enough change on Friday night. But we get enough for Saturday, of course. So there's a lot of people that are involved. And it's been an honor for me to be able to be part of that community.
Yeah. It started as like a parish carnival, and then Father Heeman, who's from Northern Kentucky, and again the strong German background of the greater Cincinnati area, brought in the idea of Oktoberfest and worked it as a development of the parish carnival. And one thing leads to the next. We don't have the Papa bands anymore, but we got the German food and the German spirit. It's really developed. I think it's probably a safe statement to say, and it's very general as I'll speak, that it's roughly we spend about $100,000 to put it on, and the whole thing takes in about 200, so we make about 100,000. That helps our ministry in the school, social services, and our parish itself. So I think that's in the right ballpark, and in terms of just general numbers, and it's a lot of work. A lot of fun. It's major. As we think of it, again, the first year when I was here was 2002, and one of the pastor's responsibilities is to pull the winning ticket at the raffle. So we pulled the winning ticket, and the person who won wasn't there, so we had their phone number, and so an immediate call went out. Does anybody have a cell phone? And since I, lived right there, I had a cell phone. I was the only one with a cell phone in 2002 as we called this person. And this gives you, that's probably the climax, the high point of my technological career. But anyway, I had the one and only cell phone, and so we called the person. And does anybody remember? Has anybody ever taken the car, or always taken the money and run?
I don't know.
Gosh, I don't know.
I think this year might be different.
Yeah, because it's quite a
Chevy Tahoe will outperform the money.
What did you all notice over the years with the sponsors? The response of the sponsors when they're asked to sponsor this event. And people are coming from all over, and they'll see their name, of course. But we've got sponsors who really go deep in helping us out. Anybody speak to that?
Gosh, I wish we had Kim Thompson here because she did so much of that in years past.
Yeah, we've invited Kim, but she had another commitment. So
yeah, right.
We can from memory, but we know how great she's been. Her and John both.
Right. Katie, who's doing sponsorship this year? Are you doing it, or?
I'm doing most of it this year, and we're so thankful for Buchart and Walks Orthodontists. They've set over the course of several years have been our presenting sponsor, and we were all a little bit nervous going into this year being virtual. Were they going to still be willing to sign on and support along with our other sponsors? But everyone has been absolutely fantastic, and it's just a testament to the legacy of all of you, and the name Oktoberfest with Christ the King makes it pretty easy to be soliciting sponsors, because people do want to be associated with Oktoberfest.
I don't know much about.
know we're almost out of time. But so I wanted to just remind everyone out there listening that we will live stream the pulling of the raffle ticket. Father Paul will do it. Hopefully it won't be in the pouring rain, but if it is, it'll be a spiritual moment for Mike Soretta, we know, and many others. But we also, although we don't have tickets for the Chevy Tahoe are all sold out, we do have tickets for the mini Tahoe. You know, the little mini Tahoe that has the Wildcat Moving logo on it. But you can't buy a straight ticket for that. You have to buy a ticket to the October Dash. So an ticket for the October Dash gets you a ticket to the mini Tahoe. And we're going to pull that raffle ticket as well. And I don't think there are people who wanted to continue to wanted to support Oktoberfest. And, you know, what we would do is ask you, just join us, you know, have a beer, join us that evening. But you can also, you know, you can also donate to Oktoberfest as well. And so it's all on our ctkoktoberfest.com site. So there's still plenty of time. And I think there's 10 yards still available, or 10 opportunities to Oktoberfest somebody's yard. And you can go on that website and Oktoberfest a yard for $30 as well.
We got Oktoberfested.
I know you did.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. And in my role, I talk to people that are coming into RCIA, and they're it's amazing. Not all the time, of course, but on a regular basis, I'll get people, when I get to the part of the conversation about, you know, kind of what drew you to the Catholic Church. Very often I will get, well, the first time I was here, I came to an Oktoberfest, and they just felt like there was a sense of, you know, excitement, you know, a parish that puts on this kind of a thing for the community. And so, you know, they had many things that brought them to inquire about the faith, but like I say, on a fairly regular basis, Oktoberfest is at least one of those elements. And so I think it's, you know, we think we're doing this as a fundraiser, when we are, and all of those things, but it also does speak to people who come and they see, you know, what the Catholic Church is all about, that this is at least an aspect of the parish that attracts them to you know, be curious. So that, just wanted to throw that out there too.
Yeah, Tim, and something I hear all the time, my latest role I mentioned is working in the casino, working, you know, the beer sales in the casino are separate. So we work all that, and something, a common theme you hear all the time, because I think most people, maybe not all, but most people realize if the house wins the pushes, that they're not going to win at blackjack if they stay there very long. But yeah. And I do say most people, because there are some that still try to beat the house, and, you know, that's their decision. But they always say one thing, oh, give it to the church. It's fine. It's going to the church. Go ahead, let it roll. You know, so they're more than happy. I think that's how they, you know, they say, oh, that's fine. I don't mind losing, you know, $50. It's going to the church. So you hear that all the time.
And I just wanted to add that when Father Larry started Oktoberfest, and then during our discussion at 9/11, Father Greg said, Oktoberfest is not about the money for what we make. That's a side benefit. It's about the building of community. Yeah. And so that's what's important about Oktoberfest. And I think that has stayed true for all the years.
I mean, I can end my contribution on this, Father Paul. Of all the things we've lost during COVID, everything that we no longer can do, whether it's the NCAA's, the Derby, a full mass, I mean, anything that we haven't been able to do. If I could have one thing, if they would have said you can have one thing, just one, for me, it would have been Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what it means to me, and I think a lot of people.
It really does bring us together. It helps us to be a community of joy, and to share that joy with others. And you know, it's as you all are saying, it's just great. People just love coming here, and we're not sure what 2021 will bring, but I have a feeling it's going to be an off the chart Oktoberfest as we move forward, and as we want to just go deeper into who we can be, and you know, and we'll be thinking and praying about it, and building towards it as we go through the next stage, and eventually get through the pandemic. So we got a goal in front of us.
Well, thank you, Father Paul, for doing this, pulling us all together and letting us chat about it.
Yep, thank you.
This has been great, and we're appreciative of all who are tuning in and with us. Now, next week we'll do coffee chat again, and we're going to change it just a little bit. It's going to begin at 9:30. It'll go for an hour, and it's 9:30 just based on the schedule of our guest. Our guest next week will be Dr. Steve Stack, who's the medical director for the state of Kentucky, working with the governor on a regular basis to try to keep us all safe and secure and moving forward, and also a member of our parish. So I don't think we'll be talking with him about Oktoberfest. So we'll be talking about just making it through day by day, and talking about his experience, and we'll probably talk about his faith a bit too. So we look forward to that next week also, and hope you can all be with us. So Suzanne and Tom and Susan and Christian and Mike and Katie, thanks to all of you for being with us today. Deacon Tim, thanks for guiding us along, and your input, which has been short but just right to the point of the power of Oktoberfest. And we'll just pray as we move forward that spirit will be with us, and we'll find ways to celebrate life even as we move through the rest of October, as we move through the fall. Fall is a beautiful time. It's a time when we might say the leaves change, and there's some brilliance. There's the beginning of the dying that goes on through the fall and winter, but also the rising of springtime. So we want to get ourselves ready for that as we continue our journey of faith, our journey of joy, and our journey of being a community together. So God bless all of you, and have a great day and a great weekend. And over the next week or so, like I say, we'll be looking forward to our new church bells, and barring the unforeseen, we'll also have our steeple and our bell tower and our new cross on our cathedral. God bless you all.